My name is Brad Kirschner. I am Dean of School at Kimberton Waldorf School. The way that we teach literacy at Waldorf Education is sort of a reflection of how we teach everything. We try to figure out what's the best balance, what's the best relationship between who we are as people, who we are as human beings, and how we grow and learn and develop, and also what is needed of us in this moment in time, and how can we best respond to our environment in this day and age. So our curriculum, our pedagogy, our approach to literacy, and our approach to education are really all in alignment for me with those really big questions of how do we bring everything we know together around how children develop, the best ways to learn, and really what's happening in our world today and in our environment today, and what's going to lead to the most appropriate sort of response to the needs that we see children having today in terms of literacy, but also in terms of digital media, in terms of screens, in terms of our overall technological environment. Like how does that environment change, if anything, the way that we should be teaching our children? So how do we both stay current and up to date with our changing world, but also still rooted in what we know about human development, developmental psychology, and the way that children learn best? A sense of freedom is so central to Waldorf education, both in the sense of we are not limited by or pressured by the sort of external influences of mandated curriculums or things like that, but also at the center of what we're trying to do is to respect the freedom and autonomy and emerging agency of our children and our students. So I feel like at the heart of Waldorf education is giving teachers the freedom to respond appropriately to the students in front of them, to figure out what's going to be the best way for them to actually use their freedom and develop their agency, and to be creative and to be using and drawing from Waldorf curriculum and Waldorf materials and materials from other places as well, but in a way that's most well adapted and well suited to whatever particular group is in front of you. So when every teacher is taking their class to the next grade, they're drawing from and learning from what's been taught in that grade in the past, but they're also really thinking about this very particular group of children whom they've probably already had for a year or more in the past. So because they know them so well, they're able to really adapt and be creative with how they present the curriculum each year based on where those children are coming from and where they've been, which they know so well. So that's something that's really unique because they know the students so well, because they stay with them for multiple years. It's never just a rehashing of that year's curriculum in the same way that last year's teacher did it, or in the same way that they would even do it with another class. You really can't breathe life into the curriculum in that way if you don't have that fundamental freedom to do so in the first place. So having it be a very holistic approach so that it's not just an abstracted sort of meaningless approach to sounding out, short vowels or long vowels, or sort of getting the rote learning of literacy in, but trying to have it be embedded in and growing out of a more creative, artistic, inherently meaningful experience for young children, and having a sense of what's going to be meaningful and feel purposeful and important and memorable, and just engaging for young children. And then sort of weaving learning and weaving phonics and weaving literacy into that overall experience, but never losing sight of the fact that overall it's the holistic experience of our children that we're most concerned about. And as the years go by, as the days go by, are they also learning to love school? Do they love being at school? Do they love the people that they're with? Do they feel seen and understood and heard and reflected in their environment? And all of that goes into how well they're going to learn, how well they're going to remember whatever it is that they're learning, whether it's literacy or math or science or history. It needs to be done in an engaging way and in a way where they feel like they're part of a meaningful and purposeful learning community. It's been nice to see how the reading connects to the main lesson blocks and how they do these really deep dive sections of learning for 1 month or 2 months at a time into a subject and doing reading along with that. So it's not reading for the sake of reading separate from the content and material that you're learning about. It's really connected. That's another element actually of Waldorf literacy as the children get older. A big part of what they're often exposed to is biography, and really one way I think about that is actually really in-depth case study. Like you're really learning in depth about a person in their historical context right, in their positionality whenever they were, whoever they were, and really learning about the world and about different cultures and about different periods of time through really relatable individuals and characters. So it's more inherently meaningful in that way. I feel like the middle schooler can really connect to the lives of just really interesting people, and it really helps when they're exposed to all different kinds of people throughout history. So there's a real level of engagement and interest there. In this unit right now, as they began their study of the Renaissance, they were also looking at some people like Leonardo da Vinci and weaving mathematics in as well. So like the class was really excited to learn about the Fibonacci sequence, for instance, and the golden mean or golden ratio, and there's certain geometry around that too. I think one of the advantages of Waldorf education is that because from day one we are really focusing on a deep and broad and rich understanding of lots of different subjects and topics through story, through fairy tale, through history, through learning about people throughout history, by having just a really broad range of curriculum, we're building their knowledge base and not hyper-focusing on decoding text, but really giving them the benefit of the doubt that they can be taking in a lot of information in a lot of different ways. And then by allowing the brain to sort of go through its natural progression of myelination and evolution over the first 7 years of their life, by the time they're 6, 7, 8 years old, they're ready for that click to happen where they can read, and the period of time that they're actually spending learning to read can be relatively brief because we didn't start it too early, and then spend more time sort of reading to learn. And as we move from learning to read to reading to learn in 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade and beyond, they already have a really broad and deep knowledge base, and they've continued to have a really broad curriculum so that they're more likely to have a deep comprehension of the things that they are reading and they are exposed to. Because one issue that you'll have, if young children have really been hyper-focused on phonics and decoding and just learning to read for the early years of their life, and they really haven't had a broad and rich exposure to curriculum, when they get in late elementary and middle school, they're then reading more complex texts, but they're having a harder time comprehending them because they don't really have that knowledge base to draw from. And the sort of reading circuit that we're developing in our brain when we learn to read is something where decoding is really just the surface level of that. And what really enriches our understanding as we get older, what really enriches our comprehension, what enriches our ability to really have empathy for the author and have a theory of mind where we're actually understanding the perspective of the author and the characters in the story. What enables that to happen is how many connections are being made in our brain between different areas of the brain, between the different things that we've learned about, not just the different things that we've read, but the things that we've experienced for ourselves and the things that we have learned throughout our entire childhood. So the sort of network of connections in our brain that's being made when we're reading more complex texts is going to be richer and comprehended better if we've had a broader exposure throughout our early childhood as opposed to one that was sort of hyper-focused on simply learning to read. Because all of our children, by the time they get to late elementary school, are going to be reading. The question is, how much are they going to be understanding, and how deep is their interest going to be in the world around them and in all the subjects that they're exposed to.
The giant told of a